The surface of the Atlantic Ocean presents a deceptive uniformity, a vast expanse that has quietly swallowed human endeavors for centuries without leaving a single ripple of explanation. Among the countless vessels claimed by the deep, one Disappearance stands as a monolithic anomaly in the annals of maritime history. It is a case that defies the logical progression of structural failure, human error, or enemy engagement. We investigate a vanishing so absolute that it continues to challenge the foundational assumptions of naval engineering and oceanographic science. To comprehend the scale of this event, we must visualize a floating industrial fortress, measuring nearly 550 feet in length and displacing over 19,000 tons. This was the USS Cyclops, a marvel of early 20th century logistical capability that simply ceased to exist. With 306 souls aboard, including crew, passengers, and a contingent of Marines, the vessel evaporated from the sea lanes. Most baffling of all, this massive ship, equipped with modern communication technology, transmitted absolutely no distress signal before its erasure from the physical world. The temporal landscape of this event is crucial to understanding the ensuing investigation. The calendar read March 1918, a period when the globe was consumed by the mechanized brutality of the First World War. The oceans were no longer merely trade routes. They were active, hostile theaters of combat, patrolled by submarines and heavily mined by opposing factions. In this climate of heightened alert and constant surveillance, the movement of every military asset was meticulously tracked, making the sudden absence of a major fleet asset theoretically impossible. The USS Cyclops was not a delicate passenger liner, but a heavily armored Proteus-class U.S. Navy collier. These ships were the utilitarian workhorses of the fleet, specifically engineered to transport massive quantities of coal to refuel warships at sea. Its architecture was defined by a skeletal forest of derricks and booms rising from the deck, designed to rapidly transfer fuel to hungry dreadnoughts. This rugged construction implies a vessel built to withstand the punishing realities of the open ocean and the demanding physical stresses of heavy cargo transfer. However, on its final voyage, the ship was not carrying its namesake cargo of coal. Instead, the holds were packed with 10,800 tons of manganese ore loaded in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Manganese is a dense, heavy mineral crucial for the production of high-tensile steel, making it a vital wartime commodity. Naval architects hypothesized that this exceptionally dense cargo dramatically altered the ship's center of gravity, introducing unprecedented shear forces to a hull that was optimized for the lighter, more voluminous distribution of coal. Tracing the documented timeline reveals a voyage that began with mechanical friction and ended in a void. The ship departed Brazil in mid-February, charting a course for Baltimore, Maryland. On March 3rd, the vessel made an unscheduled stop in Barbados to replenish its own coal bunkers. It is here that the historical record provides the last verified data points regarding the ship's condition, offering tantalizing but fragmented clues that investigators have debated for over a century. Reports from the port of Barbados indicated that the ship was riding unusually low in the water, a direct consequence of the dense manganese payload. Furthermore, the ship's commander reported that the starboard engine was out of commission due to a cracked cylinder, reducing the vessel's top speed and maneuverability. Despite these operational handicaps, the port authorities deemed the ship seaworthy, and it was cleared for the final leg of its journey up the eastern seaboard of the United States. The collier sailed out of Carlisle Bay on March 4th, pushing into the vast stretch of the Atlantic, expected to arrive in Baltimore by March 13th. When that date arrived, the docks remained empty. Days bled into weeks, and the silence from the ocean deepened. Not a single piece of wreckage, no life preservers, no oil slicks, and no debris field ever materialized on the surface to mark the grave of the mammoth vessel. The absence of a distress signal remains the most confounding variable in the entire equation. The ship was equipped with a state-of-the-art wireless telegraph system, capable of transmitting an SOS across vast distances in a matter of seconds. For a trained radio operator to fail to tap out a single plea for help implies an event of such sudden, catastrophic violence that it instantly neutralized the command structure and severed the ship's electrical capabilities before human reflexes could respond. Given the geopolitical reality of the era, the initial conclusion drawn by military leadership was straightforward and grim. The prevailing assumption was that the ship had fallen victim to a German U-boat, making its loss a tragic but expected casualty of a global conflict. This World War I mystery immediately triggered a classified review of known enemy submarine positions, as naval intelligence sought to confirm the tactical strike that had supposedly claimed their vital supply ship. The mechanics of a submarine attack theoretically align with the suddenness of the disappearance. A precisely targeted torpedo strike to the ship's magazine or boiler rooms could trigger a secondary explosion, instantly vaporizing the communication arrays and splitting the hull. This would send the thousands of tons of metal and manganese plummeting to the ocean floor in minutes, dragging the crew down before lifeboats could be deployed or signals transmitted. Yet, rigorous post-war analysis systematically dismantled the enemy action hypothesis. When the German Imperial Navy's meticulous operational logs were seized and translated, investigators scoured the records for any mention of an attack on a large American vessel in that sector. The archives revealed a startling truth. There were absolutely no U-boats operating anywhere near the ship's projected route during the first 2 weeks of March. The most logical wartime explanation was definitively ruled out by the enemy's own documentation. Stripped of the combat hypothesis, investigators were forced to turn their analytical lens inward, examining the physical integrity of the ship itself. The Proteus-class colliers, while robust, featured a unique structural design that included a series of longitudinal I-beams running the length of the cargo holds. Engineering reviews suggested that these beams, subjected to the corrosive marine environment and the constant stress of heavy loads, might have been harboring microscopic fractures invisible to standard inspections. The metallurgical reality of the manganese cargo becomes the critical focal point of this structural theory. If the ship encountered rough seas, the immense concentrated weight of the dense ore could have shifted suddenly within the holds. In naval architecture, a sudden shift of a high-density load creates an asymmetrical force that can exceed the tensile strength of the hull, causing the ship to list violently and take on water at an unmanageable rate. Modern structural engineers propose an even more catastrophic scenario known as a structural failure by hogging or sagging. If the vessel was suspended between two massive wave crests or balanced precariously on a single peak, the concentrated weight of the manganese in the central holds could have caused the keel to snap entirely. A ship breaking its back in the middle of a storm would sink with terrifying rapidity, pulling the radio room beneath the waves before a single transmission key could be depressed. The chilling validity of this structural failure theory is amplified by the tragic historical echoes that followed decades later. During the Second World War, two of the ship's identical sister vessels, the USS Proteus and the USS Nereus, also vanished without a trace while carrying heavy loads of metallic ore along similar routes. This grim repetition strongly implies a fatal, inherent design flaw within the collier class, a hidden vulnerability waiting for the right combination of cargo and kinetic stress to trigger total annihilation. Beyond the ship's internal architecture, we must account for the immense, unpredictable power of the oceanographic environment it was navigating. The projected route from Barbados to Baltimore passed directly through a meteorologically volatile region of the Atlantic. While popular culture often attributes paranormal characteristics to this area, oceanographers focus on the very real documented fluid dynamics and atmospheric anomalies that define these waters. The scientific phenomenon of rogue waves offers a compelling, natural explanation for a sudden, silent sinking. These are not tidal waves or tsunamis, but immense, transient walls of water created by the constructive interference of multiple wave trains converging with opposing ocean currents. A rogue wave can spontaneously erupt to heights exceeding 80 feet, presenting a near-vertical wall of water capable of exerting thousands of tons of crushing pressure per square meter. If the heavily laden, mechanically handicapped collier encountered a rogue wave in the dark of night, the results would be instantaneous and fatal. The sheer kinetic impact would smash the bridge, shatter the reinforced glass, and instantly flood the command and communication centers. The compromised hull, already straining under the dense manganese, would be driven underwater by the sheer weight of the ocean, leaving no time for evacuation protocols or distress signals. While structural and environmental factors dominate the scientific discourse, historians also scrutinize the human element, specifically the leadership of Commander George W. Worley. Archival records paint a picture of a highly eccentric and often controversial officer, known for berating his crew and making questionable navigational decisions. His leadership style had reportedly severely degraded the morale of the 306 men under his command, leading to a tense and fractured atmosphere aboard the vessel. Some historical accounts suggest the possibility of a mutiny, theorizing that internal conflict could have incapacitated the command structure during a critical weather event. However, while interpersonal friction was undoubtedly present, maritime experts argue that a mutiny alone cannot explain the complete physical disappearance of a 19,000-ton vessel. Even a ship paralyzed by internal rebellion would eventually drift, run aground, or be spotted by passing merchant traffic. In the immediate aftermath of the vessel failing to arrive in Baltimore, the United States launched one of the most extensive maritime search operations in its history. A vast armada of cruisers, destroyers, and auxiliary craft meticulously gridded the Atlantic, scanning the surface from the Caribbean to the Chesapeake Bay. They searched for lifeboats, wooden decking, oil slicks, or any flotsam that inevitably rises when a massive structure disintegrates beneath the surface. The absolute failure of this massive search effort to yield a single splinter of evidence remains a statistical anomaly. When a ship sinks, buoyant materials tear loose. Oil and lubricants bleed from ruptured tanks, creating a visible sheen that lasts for days. The fact that the ocean surrendered nothing suggests that whatever event claimed the vessel pulled it down entirely intact, sealing its debris within the hull as it plummeted into the abyssal plains. The human cost of this void in the historical record is profound. The families of the lost crew were left suspended in a state of perpetual uncertainty, denied the closure of a confirmed sinking or recovered remains. To this day, the event stands as the greatest single loss of life in United States naval history, not directly resulting from enemy combat, a somber milestone that underscores the inherent perils of maritime navigation. The vanishing of this colossal ship remains a masterclass in the limits of human engineering when pitted against the indifferent power of the natural world. Whether claimed by a microscopic structural fracture, the crushing weight of a rogue wave, or a combination of deadly variables, the USS Cyclops slipped into the dark and took its secrets with it. It endures as a haunting reminder that despite our technological hubris, the ocean retains the ultimate authority to erase our greatest creations without a trace.